Hello and welcome to Crypto. Oh my God, and oh my God, do we have a crazy story unfolding right now? There is a war happening on chain. Everybody can see it. It's between the centralized exchanges and the decentralized exchanges, and holy moly, it's a doozy. So let's get right into it. Now, this whole thing starts with a little app called JellyJelly, which comes out from Sam Lessin of Slow Ventures. You might recognize this guy because he created a little app called Venmo. You might have heard of it. I first discovered JellyJelly from my buddy Casey Neistat, a fine gentleman who sent me a lot of viewers like you. Thank you so much there, Casey, you're a bro. Sam is out here promoting this new app. It's a video sharing app. I believe it does both sides of the camera, kind of spontaneous, very fresh take on the world around you so that you can be sharing content while also narrating it. A la this thing right here. Now, the crazy thing is that during an X Spaces, Sam is talking with some of the buddies about JellyJelly, and they're like, hey, all these Solana meme coins are going nuts. This was during the meme coin mania. And they find that there's this JellyJelly coin launched by somebody, not them. They say they don't own it, blah, blah, blah. But out of nowhere, JellyJelly token surges to $250 million market cap. It's like this straight up vertical explosion, right? And they just are sitting here live watching it in awe. Now, this is like the perfect setup for a meme coin during that time. You have somebody talking about it live while people are trading it. I mean, really, these meme coin traders are sitting around looking for anything that they can to turn into a tradable market. That is sort of the nihilism that we got from the meme coin trade. And here they are, right? Here's a post. JellyJelly coin is live, making the internet fun again, and they're talking about it, and just sort of the social experience of launching a token here on Pump.fun. Now, that all settled, and JellyJelly token receded into a very small market cap with very few holders, kind of the same story as any meme coin experience that you've seen in the past. So now we come back to Hyperliquid, which I discussed, kind of solved some of the meme coin pump mechanics by launching Perps or leveraged long short positions. They've been doing it for a variety of meme coins that are spiking, basically giving traders the opportunity to be like, hey, you want to short this thing? You know it's garbage. So they've had this JellyJelly Perps market open for a while. But this morning, something crazy happened. A trading wallet took out a massive short. And I'll run it down here from this post from LookOnChain. Again, with a DEX, you can see trades happening live. They open up on the blocks. You can see them happening block by block. Now, let's keep in mind, at this moment, the JellyJelly market is about a $60 million market cap. With that small of an amount, $6 million in purchase would represent a 10% move either way. It's very easy if you sell those JellyJelly to destroy that entire market cap, and volatility is going to be extremely high. What happened here is that a massive whale with 124.6 million jelly, around $5 million worth, is manipulating the price of JellyJelly to make the hyperliquidity provider, HLP, face a loss of 12 million. Now, what the hyperliquidity provider is a vault that users can put capital into. This vault manages liquidations. And if you remember from the Bybit exploit episode, Bybit was able to make back $400 million in one day through liquidations on longs and shorts, right? When the risk turns on and people lever up, when they lose, it comes back to the exchange. They make a ton of money. And obviously that money is something they like to continue making. So we go on. He first dumped Jelly, crashing the price and leaving HLP with a passive short position of 398 million Jelly. So basically, what he's doing is opening up a bit of toxic debt and trying to move it from his position, because when he gets liquidated, it moves over to the HLP vault. That HLP vault now has this giant stash of jelly, which it can't really sell because it's a very illiquid market. Then he goes and he buys jelly back on the spot market, not longs or shorts, driving the price up. So you create this toxic debt from a short position, you move it into their vault, and then you start to buy it aggressively, right? Longing it block by block. This begins to increase that toxic debt that's being held on the vault. After this, the HLP suffers, or is at risk of suffering, a loss of nearly 12 million. So we can see that this trader is attacking the Hyperliquid exchange, or most specifically the HLP, which does have external user funds and reputational damage, by inserting toxic debt into their holdings and trying to inflate that debt. Now, what gets extremely crazy is that Binance and OKX go and they prepare to immediately list Perps on JellyJelly token. Basically, Binance is about to open up to their users the ability to long the shit out of this. This token's going up, right? You have someone actively buying, and you also at the same time have this bad debt bubble sitting on Hyperliquid Exchange. So if Binance can get their users to buy, to long the shit out of this, that toxic debt just balloons. And that is the structure of this attack. And we can see it here, right? They open the short and you have the beginning of a price decrease. Right here is the short buy in this red volume bar. And then the buys just start going nuts. And this is the crux of it, right? They're accumulating this toxic debt and moving it into the vault. Now, Hyperliquid is arguably not a fully decentralized exchange. And the reason people say that is because the governance and the operators and the validators on the back end tend to be a centralized group of people, right? Hyperliquid themselves runs the majority of the validators. Now, decentralization is a process, and it does take time. This is why Hester Pierce's safe harbor rule has a 3-year period in which you transition from the centralized team that raises the money, that builds the tech, into passing that ownership off to the community. It is a slow process. It does not happen overnight. There's governance involved, there's voting, there's all these fun things, right? It's not quick. So Hyperliquid takes advantage of some of these centralized features, and they basically say, after evidence of suspicious market activity, the validator set convened and voted to delist Jelly Perps. They basically go on to say that they're just going to remove the market, and they even go farther to say that they roll back the price to this toxic debt. What it did was it allowed the Hyperledger vault, the HLP, to actually leave their position with about 700,000 in price accrual. Everybody else involved is simply just going to lose out. So the malicious attacker, their capital's gone. They didn't really care. They made it back on the long, and their goal is not to make money here, it's to destroy Hyperliquid. Meanwhile, Hyperliquid goes on to say, all users apart from the flagged addresses will be made whole from the Hyper Foundation. This will be done automatically in the coming days based on on-chain data. So anybody else that was kind of tied up in this, they're going to make you whole. And now why is this important? Because this is crime on both sides. Manipulating a market in this fashion, very illegal. So is rolling back. So is pausing a market and controlling it, right? We have the manipulation on one side, and then we have like the manipulation on the other side. Now, I do think Hyperliquid is going to take way less damage, having resolved the issue and in a monetarily strong position, right? They didn't lose a ton of cash. Users that were impacted are going to be made whole. And while anyone that's arguing this isn't decentralized, that's just a battle for another day. What they are avoiding was taking on this toxic debt, was losing a ton of money. They could have made this money back. I mean, the protocol generates a ton of cash, but they offset that. And of course, this story continues to unfold. We have ZachXBT, by and far the most prominent sleuth in the crypto industry. He is known for pursuing North Korean hackers. He is able to get into the depth of the chains, really unwind a lot of the exploits. He works a lot with the stablecoin issuers to actually freeze funds of exploited accounts. And he is the guy that will kind of unpack the truth. This is why committing crime on chain is not great. You got ZachXBT and his homies coming after your ass, and it's all there. It's all written on chain. So he comes out and he says it would be even funnier if this outcome happened because both Jelly manipulators and their wallet addresses were freshly funded by Binance and Arbitrum. And it goes on. They deposited USDC to multiple fresh deposit addresses, but also reused this account, BE8E, linking more of their addresses to OKX, Bybit, Mexi, and not only Binance. So you're seeing a coalition of centralized exchanges, of these non-US exchanges, coming out and trying to attack Hyperliquid DEX. Now, why would they do that? If you remember, Hyperliquid has 12% of the perpetuals trading volume as Binance. It has 50% of the perpetual volume as OKX and Bybit and the rest of them. So it is a major competitor. Hyperliquid is less than 1 year old. It took no VC funding. The team is all pretty wealthy, so they used their own $10 million to kickstart it off. And it has this amazing buyback and burn. They use half of their earnings from liquidations, which is huge as I've gone on prior, to actually buy back the Hype token. So the more that Hyperliquid gets utilized, the more traders leverage, the more liquidations that happen, the more capital they have to buy back the Hype token. You can think of this as like a dividend mechanic, and it is very strong, and it's making a lot of true believers. Now, furthermore, even if we say they're not decentralized, all you need to trade on Hyperliquid is a Web3 wallet. You connect it. There's no KYC AML. You just get in there and start trading. So it is a very low friction environment and a really strong product market fit, both on the product itself, which is leveraged trading and perpetuals, as well as the Hype token, which has this really unique buyback and burn. And of course, it doesn't have all the VC debt of token unlocks. All the tokens are basically out there at present. So this gets really crazy. And of course, we now have this argument going on in the industry. Well, is it decentralized? Is it not? And again, I think that is something that they can live with. That conversation is open. It's not being closed until they really decentralize the validator set. So that's something for another day. But this attack, if they could mitigate it, they just, that's not a good look. That is something that is a reputational risk far and beyond. Now you have major traders like McKenna, who's a day trader influencer, saying Sex's just declared war on a decentralized competitor, which has washed away all honor and integrity. And he goes on to talk about they exploit teams constantly, asking for a multi% of the supply, which they dump on the market, multi-six-figure listing fees, and a bunch of other terrible optics. And I can absolutely agree here. I handled the listing relationships for many, many tokens. The amount of capital they ask just to be listed is often paired with a huge amount of capital that is asked as some sort of hold, basically to say, if you rug us, we have an insurance fund. But are you going to get that money back? There's no real guarantee. Once you give them your money, it's kind of theirs, right? Not your keys, not your coin kind of thing. Not only that, they ask you to change your tokenomics, which might mean going back to every investor and signing new contracts. I've seen them have teams do that, only to then conclude and say, hey, do it again, right? You're talking about listing in 1 week and you got to go to every investor you have and get them to sign off on a new contract. This is very hard. Furthermore, they're starting to expand the team token lockups. So a team token generally locks for 4 years. You have a 4-year cliff and then it starts to unlock linearly. They're going into year 3 of building these products, hoping that maybe they see a little exit opportunity at year 4, right? They've been building for a long time. This is the upside of the builder relationship in crypto. And some of these exchanges will say, hey, we know you're at year 3 or 4, but we want you to push that 4 more years, right? We want that cliff to be 8 years, right? These builders are now locked up for 8 years before they can see any exit hope. How many token charts have a positive accrual after 8 years? That's pretty nuts. So these centralized exchanges are massive gatekeepers, extremely toxic, and they're seeing this competition and they're getting scared. This is wild stuff. And of course, you have other traders coming out, like this DeFi influencer, Ignas, and he says, with Binance and OKX listing jelly perps to further damage Hyperliquid, Hype is no longer just a perp dex, it's a movement. So is the trade-off, in this decentralization argument worth it? Hell yes. They're lighting up people. They're saying, we are the underdog now in this industry that positions itself as the underdogs all around. So this is pretty fascinating. And it all comes back to Sam Lessin, who sort of kicked it off in the beginning, going, as a self-diagnosed chaotic neutral whose hero is Jack Sparrow, I highly approve of this insane crypto war playing out between degens, whales, and crypto trading platforms using jelly my jelly, even if I have nothing to do with it and only half understand it. And isn't that the truth? So much is going on here between whales and people with massive amounts of capital trying to insert these toxic elements and really destroy other protocols from the inside. Now, does Hyperliquid really have to reevaluate their risk parameters? Hell yes, they do. This should not really be a problem. Maybe listing perps with leverage on a $60 million market cap of a shitcoin is just a bad idea. I'm sure they will take this all into account and reconsider. Of course, now they've lived to fight another day, and I do think this does secure their place as a major contender against the centralized exchanges. I hope none of you guys were caught up with that, which is why I sign off today the same way as always do, which is good luck out there, and I will see you tomorrow.